Hi, everyone. Welcome back to episode 2 of C.U.S.P., where we talk about curiosities, universe, supernatural, paranormal, and psychic. Um,
This has been very difficult to record as of recently because it seems like every time we try to do this podcast, today specifically, it kind of there's a lot of topics we want to talk about, but maybe that's just me because I like talking a lot. And so I'm going to let my mom take control of what topic we talk about today and to kind of stay focused on that topic and to help me talk about that
just help you focus a little bit.
because I am struggling.
Yes.
It is so bad. This weather makes my brain scrambled like an egg. I swear to you.
I think I mentioned on my TikTok that there were going to be moments of nerd rants, and we've stopped and recorded a few times because it's like not your normal fun nerd rants. It's just like super logical, analytical rants. And it's too hot for my brain.
Yeah. Trust me. It's like for me, it's like an oven right now because it's like 80. I think it's 81 or 82 degrees, but it feels like it's 85, 90.
And I know there's probably somebody, because I have friends in Texas, Florida, who was like, that's nothing. We get that. But we are in the Pacific Northwest. We're used to cooler weather, rain, and hiking at random moments. So
Sometimes snow here and there in the middle of
yeah, we've actually been getting snow quite a bit every year.
It's been nice.
And our springtime, ugh, love our springtime. Anyways, so back on focus because I'm trying to focus you, so I have to focus myself
Sorry,
too.
one thing I want to go off topic real quick. You
Okay.
said that the grass from where we're at is different from the place that you went to, if I recall.
What
Because
do you-
you went to a different state one day and you realized that like in
I went to Indiana.
Indiana apparently has greener grass and like lime green grass in comparison to the dark green that we have on the Pacific Northwest.
Right. We have the light green. And when I went there, it was just I had a good time too. So maybe I was just like happy, so everything was brighter.
Did it feel fake? Did it feel like the grass looked fake?
There were times when I was taking pictures where I had to check my phone to see if I had a filter on. Because it was that green.
Wow.
And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, why does that look like I edited? I didn't. That's the color it was. It was actually, there was a lot of really, really pretty stuff out there.
Okay, so now back on topic now.
Back on topic. Thank you. So
Shoot.
we're going to talk of paranormal today.
Okay.
Because you came out and said some stuff, and some of the recordings we tried to do earlier got brought up.
I just realized
Okay.
we should use the title of our thing to figure out what we want to talk about. So if it's curiosity, it'll be Curiosity Day. If it's a paranormal day.
Gotcha.
I
So,
like what you just did there.
thank you.
So
Well, last time we talked psychic, so
Yeah.
I figured paranormal would be the next step. We're going backwards. Why? Because that's how I roll, baby.
understandable. Have a nice day.
End podcast. No, I think we were talking about paranormal. We talk about this stuff at random when we're not on podcast. So this is just
kind of out of the blue.
fun for us, to be honest.
Yeah.
So we were talking about paranormal, and one of the things that came up during one of our conversations recently was whether or not people feel or can feel the presence of spirit, a ghost, somebody who's passed on.
Right.
And you were asking if that was a normal thing for lots of people to feel that, or if it was just some people feel it and some people don't, I think is where you were going with that, but don't quote me.
It was I turn the phone this way.
Sorry.
You're good. The idea was about how energy is transferred, not just scientifically, but like metaphysically as well. Because when I remember watching anime as a kid, when I was watching Dragon Ball Z, which by the way, still a goated series, I personally thought about ki. And ki was kind of like that spiritual energy that people naturally have. And as a little kid, I always try to do the Kamehameha and do that little weird kid stuff. And for me, it made me think about how energy is actually transferred metaphysically, not just, actual physicality or mentally, but actual spirituality.
Right.
And for me, it made me think about how, when it came down to it, energy is energy no matter the circumstance. And so kind of finding the in between, or finding the lines that separate them, are hard.
Right. So with energy, and first let me address the goaded comment. Goaded, for those of you who are Gen X or Zennial.
Or boomer as well.
Oh, I don't know if we have any boomers. That'd be great. Um, Goated means greatest of all time.
Or the like
Goat,
the
the
best,
goat,
the
the
best
best.
of anything out there. For me, yes,
Okay, so
it is goaded with the sauce.
just stop.
Don't ask me about what the sauce means. The
I
sauce can
don't
mean a
want
lot
to.
of
I don't
things.
want. I honestly, I went very, very bad with that. So let's just moving on. This is. Oh wow.
Okay, boomer.
I
I'm
gotta say.
kidding. I'm
Okay,
kidding.
so I'm gonna say something that people. There are gonna be people who are like, no, that's not true. And there are gonna be other people that are gonna say, oh, I didn't think of it that way. And then maybe there'll be some out there that agree with me.
Yeah.
Um, Science and metaphysical are the same. Let me explain a little bit more. Math, universal language, right? Math.
Yeah.
Okay. Math is used universe wise. Everything's math. Energy is just different levels of math. So if you look, your brain just click a little bit?
A little bit.
Okay. So I'm not trying to, I see the wheels grinding and I'm nervous that I went too far with it for you.
It's grinding because of this hot weather.
Okay. So I feel that math is present, which means science is present and metaphysical.
So do you
If
so do you think that science and the metaphysical are connected in some sense?
I do, and in a lot of senses, I think. But again, that's my own personal opinion. I'm not a mathematician, or I don't have a doctorate in anything, so I don't know. I'm just going by what I feel. But let me put it to you in a different way. So back in plague days, okay,
Ye
I
old
in
times.
ye old times, back in plague days, science wasn't accepted as readily as it is now. Now it's kind of like science is the thing that you stand behind. But I'm sorry.
she,
And
she,
I keep
she,
turning the
so I
phone
have a pot socket on my phone. We're using my phone to record, and it's like slightly turns over time, like a turntable.
away from my mouth.
Yeah, and away from my mouth as well. So we're kind of like struggling to get the audio quality well.
Sorry.
You're good. You're
That's
good.
my humble side. Does that count
Oh,
for
now it's
something?
twisting the other way. Okay.
Okay.
You know what? Hold on. I'll hold it.
How about you hold that? Okay. So, back in plague days, that's where we're at.
No,
Back
well,
on Sunday.
that made me realize, like, there was a cartoon or an anime that you were watching. It was Castlevania.
Love Castlevania.
Castlevania is a really great anime.
Great game, by the way, too, if you ever get the old one.
But that made me realize that, yes, you were right, because people back then identified science as witchcraft and not.
Right.
And so
And
that's
now it's everyone goes by, well, what's the science behind it? What's the fact? What's the fact? What's the fact? And here's the fact. Back in plague days, there was a guy that came out of the woodworks and was like, hey, you should, I don't know, wash your hands when you're done doing things, that are gross. And by the way, use soap. And people were like, what is soap? And it's literally lye and fat. And they're like, how is lye and fat going to help me? Um, but obviously it does. It does. It helps a lot. But back then they didn't know anything about microbes or you know what I mean?
yeah. So I think what's the weird thing about science, though, is that someone had to do something so weird to get products out. So, like, for example, I think I remember there was an invention that happened. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what invention I was thinking about. I was thinking,
you just pulled a mom sentence. So there's an invention that happened. A mom sentence is like, go get me the under the, and you better know what I'm asking for. Just
yeah, sorry. Thanks.
you're welcome.
There was an invention that happened. I think it was Play-Doh. Play-Doh was, I think, an amalgamation of just random stuff cooked up together, and now it's a toy. Or like it's kind of, well, I guess it's similar to clay in a sense, and someone's trying to make it much
I think you're
more.
thinking of slime. Remember, I think I read a story about that where they were talking about the slime that was used. It was meant to be a shampoo, but it ended up.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, you're not old enough to remember you can't do that on television, but on this show that was I think it was Nickelodeon or before Nickelodeon anyways. Um Anytime anyone said I don't know, they would be dumped and like slime would fall on them. But the slime was actually shampoo. So it was easy for them to wash it back off.
I hope it smelled
And
good
I
because it
think
looked gross.
I don't know if anyone knows what we're talking about when it comes to it was some kind of slime or Play-Doh or putty
I
or
know
something that was made.
I know what it was. I know what it was, something that had to do with some kind of mushy texture item
Yeah, it
that
was.
was invented from two chemicals being mixed together by accident. I can't remember what it was. Oh, was it oobleck? Is that the one I'm thinking about?
Which one is oobleck?
Oobleck is a substance where if you have enough kinetic energy, it'll actually become more solid. But if you let it,
Oh, yeah, that's basically the cornstarch water thing.
yeah. How did someone like? I want to know. Like, I really want to know who thought up of these ideas to make these items in the first
Okay, I
place.
have a random thought. Okay, this is what I picture.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm in the kitchen. I'm about to make chicken strips. And I'm gonna coat my chicken strips in cornstarch and flour. Right. But I'm like, you know what? I need this to be a little bit thicker because I want my breading to be thick. So I add
yeah.
water to it, but not too much because I don't want it to. And then I flick the chicken into the bowl to try and get it coated, and it just smacks against it. And then someone was like, and then they started messing around with it. And then that's
Is that why?
I know for a
Is that
fact
why?
that is not what happened, but that is where my brain
Is
went.
that why Bob Ross says happy accidents?
You are welcome.
Are you saying that I'm a happy accident? What are you trying to say here? What do you
No,
mean? No, I'm
I
kidding.
meant
I'm
for my
kidding.
story time. Okay.
No, I know.
So, anyways, we were talking about science. Yeah, you're back on track. We're talking about science and math. And I think that a lot of the metaphysical world, paranormal, and all that has to do with different energy. And energy is made up of atoms, and you have mathematical equations for those things.
Do you think we have a mathematical equation to figure out if spirits exist? Because I know there's tools out there.
Right. You have ghost box,
You have what was it? It was not an EMP. It was like
the electronic, electromagnetic, it's EMR.
Thank you. So I was thinking EMP because electromagnetic pulse, which
Pulse, right.
technically kind of relates to that in a sense, but it I think the weird thing for me now is that our technology is so advanced and we still haven't, I guess we have started getting more like energy slash like spirits talking to us through our technology a little bit more. Like recently I've seen people on TikTok actually using their phones
Right.
to actually talk with spirits, and one of them actually had went to a gravestone or a grave area, right?
Cemetery.
Cemetery. Why I can't speak. A cemetery. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Went to a cemetery,
Yeah.
and they were live streaming it the entire time. So they went there for the first time, and one of the spirits said something along the lines of "Help me," and then said a name. And right next to the guy was the actual name on the gravestone.
Interesting.
And so that makes me realize that we have technology now that could potentially be much more connected with a different plane of existence.
I'd say yes, but then I also say no because there's some, not for all of it. I'm sorry. I say yes, and then also no on certain aspects. There are things that are older cameras, older audio recordings, like older simple simplistic items that are easy, I don't know where that word came from.
Mm.
Easier for people who or spirit, we'll call spirit for now, to communicate through. You think there's boomer ghosts and they can't handle the newer stuff? That was me out loud in my head to myself. That wasn't even me. That was okay.
You're saying that there's a generation of spirits that fucking hate technology and want to use like a use.
I
they
okay.
they rather use a record to record the bright vibrations of their voice instead of using the phone. Honestly, I
Let
would
me
not be
clarify for a
surprised.
moment that that was not my thought. That was I have.
That was an intrusive thought that came
It's
out.
not okay. So I wanted to bring that up. Okay, so last time we talked, we were talking about intrusive thoughts, and I was trying to explain that it's not an intrusive thought. It is your hearing, your guides, your angels, your spirit. So when I have an intrusive thought, it's completely different than when I have spirit talking to me. So, like for example, that little smart ass oh God,
You're
you're
good.
messing with me today. That little comment was not from me. That was from one of my spirit guides. I have very sarcastic, funny, well, obviously, because I'm not going to pick somebody who's not fun to be with, but they have a lot of really, really great comments. That wasn't mine.
So, so you think that the subconscious, like, do you
Not
think?
a subconscious, sweetheart. It's an actual guide. This is this let's talk about this then.
I feel like
So
I feel
you have a hard time associating subconscious internal thought versus a spiritual being talking to you.
I think that's because the difference between that and subconscious is kind of a very big gray area because some people will have like ideas and thoughts that come out of the blue, and I feel like that would make sense in with the spirits and guides, but I also think that there's moments where we have our own identity as humans
Right.
to have our own thoughts and ideas,
Right. It's free will.
and that's what I'm thinking, like subconscious ideas versus spiritual ideas, I feel like is hard to understand
So
because of how gray that area
all
is.
right, so let's break it down. Let's make it simpler and see if we can explain it that way. So your what's the difference between conscious and subconscious?
Conscious, I think, is the idea that you are in control of your thoughts and you know exactly what you're thinking.
That's happening actively as you go.
Right. And
And subconscious
subconscious
is
is the not the I would say, I guess I would say the opposite in a sense. It's the opposite where your thoughts do come into play, but it's from a deeper emotional level that you cannot experience all too well. Like I think, for example, a subconscious thought would be like in the back of your head, and you remember a moment, but it's not something you're thinking about, but it's something that you know is in the back there.
right. So subconscious is something that you are aware of, but you don't necessarily allow it into your conscious thought area. Is that
It's
agreeable?
kind of like two storage areas, one with, control, one that's just kind of like sporadic and like random things pop in your head.
Yeah, it's the difference between having a SIM card and just basic memory on your phone. Your SIM card is your subconscious where things go and hide until you go and pull them out.
It's like an OS, an operational system
Correct.
where you basically have the system ready to go, but the only way that it can advance is when you control it.
I think that we just enlightened a bunch of techie nerds. I'm kind of psyched about that.
That actually makes a lot of sense now thinking
Yay!
about it.
I love when that happens. Okay, so now that we had that simplified on conscious versus subconscious, what we are talking about when it comes to spirit is, I guess, the simple. Oh, I hate. Give me a second. I'm trying to discuss a thought with my guides of whether or not that's going to be okay for me to say it that way. Yes. Okay. It's a simple way to say it. Bear with me. If you think of a ghost, okay, and I hate, I'm sorry, but yeah, no, it's the simplest term. If you think of a ghost that is in the area and the ghost is able to talk to you through your mind, that is the equivalent of a spirit or a guide. So spirits and guides, they're not ghosts. It doesn't mean that they weren't somebody who was in your life at some point, passed on, went through whatever, again, sorry, training that they needed to go through before they could come back through and then help support you on your life's journey.
So in a sense, it's like, and I think we talked about this last podcast where it's very similar to it's very similar, I would say, to what's it called? We talked about this before where it's very similar to
You were thinking of intuition, and it's not it,
intuition.
and
Yeah.
that was the other one that I want to talk. So we one of the things you brought up was you said in intrusive thoughts, and then you said intuition, and I actually listened to the edited version of the podcast and realized that I needed to correct some of those. So intuition is within yourself. So we're lighting the stage over here. Intuition is with yourself. And then intrusive thoughts, again, is within yourself. So you can have inner intuition that's like, hey, go down this road or hey, go down that road. But when you have a guide or spirit telling you specifically, don't go here, don't go there, do this, do that, say this, think this. It's not think this. I'm gonna correct that. Sorry, I apologize. Say this, or this is what's happening in your mind. It's separate. So intuition is separate because spirit and guides and angels are separate. They're a divine being. I don't know how to
I
describe
think
that.
yeah, so I think the difficulty of finding that fine line is because they all encompass the same thing in a sense. So like intuition, I would think is a subconscious pattern with, say for example, making a decision instinctively, right? So like making a decision on if you want to run away from something bad happening, or if you're going to fight whatsoever happening in front of you. It's like fight or flight in a sense. But for me, I think the difficulty of finding about the guides part is, I think guides are interconnected with subconscious thoughts, because I think maybe they're talking with your subconscious thoughts and trying to figure things out on what it is.
And you're that's not a fine line. You have officially set a line in the sand saying that a guide is just your subconscious. That's what you're saying with what you're saying.
But I feel like when you were saying it felt like it was three separate categories. It was conscious, subconscious, then guides.
It's separate because guides are not you, they are themselves. I just happen to be somebody who can hear them, pick up on them, and understand the connection is. Everyone has different levels of, and I'm going to use the word guides because that's the word I use for my spirit team. And you can use the word spirit team too, but other people call them spirit, some call them divine, some call them angels. But I'm going to use the word guides just to clarify. So my guides help guide me on the path that I've chosen. And this is something else too that it's hard for people to kind of comprehend that it is a separate thing from yourself. Your intuition is internal. That doesn't mean that your guides didn't help you with that intuition or that vibe, it just means that that intuition is internal. Intrusive thoughts is definitely an internal thing that's not coming from outside, unless it's coming out from an outside that's a negative. And again, then that's not an intrusive thought. That is a negative thing coming in. It, I,
I think I'm trying to understand what you're saying here, and I can understand that aspect.
oh, I have an idea. Let me. So we went into the psychic area instead of paranormal, but that's okay.
I mean, I think paranormal and psychic kind of go hand in hand.
You can.
I mean, like if we're talking
Often
about
a lot.
you're talking about like spirits, and
Yeah.
you're talking about my thing about it is that when it really comes down to it, they are thoughts, whether that's you, your other you, or something outside of what you normally would consider, you know.
I feel like that's simplifying it down to thoughts. And I'm going to agree with the terminology because it is a thought. But what I don't agree with is that it's my own thought. So it's, we were talking about energy, right?
Yeah,
So you made up of all this energy. Go with me on this and just,
I'm going with it.
okay.
We're
So
we're struggling here today, everyone. Trust
it's
us.
not. I have a hard time explaining these things because it's not something that I've been very open with a lot of people about. If I told anyone at any time that, hey, by the way, I'm a psychic medium, like that's very private, and I trust that person with that information. I don't just come out and say it.
So now having a podcast and letting people
It's
know about it's kind of like a weird,
yeah, and
like,
so I'm
yeah.
kind of stumbling on it a little bit, but I will get there.
I'm just struggling because my brain is fried from the sun.
It is
So
a little
thank you
hot.
so much for being 81 degrees outside here. Thank you
I'm
so
enjoying
much.
it. So if you think about energy, right? And we're made up of all these tiny little things. So depending on your religion, your culture, your history, your your belief system, and this is going to vary from person to person. This is just mine. It's the idea is we're made up of all these tiny little things. If you believe in reincarnation, or you believe if there's an afterlife or another dimension or another area that we go to or can be from, then that's where I'm going with this. So let's say we're made up of all these tiny little things, and we are in this other place. We'll just call it the other place for now because it's going to be simpler.
I think the other place is like a big, it'll expand upon everything because I would say every kind of culture have their own sign of like
Right.
the
So I
other
don't
side.
the other side, right. So we're gonna call it the other place just because it's simplified.
Yeah.
So let's say you're in this other place and you are somebody who wants to reincarnate. Now, I also believe in other universes and planets that with life, because I don't think it would be, I don't want to say it's small minded of me because then I'm calling people small minded. For me, it would be limiting myself to believe that we are the only intelligent life out there.
Oh, absolutely. There's obviously something else out there. 100%.
And not everyone believes that. So I'm not going what you believe is what you believe. So you're
Aliens and little green men.
okay. So let's say you're on this other side and you want to come back to a specific location. Now you don't want to go to this universe or that universe. You just how happen want to go to Earth. You want to go to Earth. Maybe you've been to Earth before and you're like want to do it. Now, masculine and feminine, we kind of talked about that a little bit in the past podcast. And it's not limited to just male, female sex. It is not gender, it's not gender specific.
It's
It's
everyone.
everyone has a little bit of both in them. So let's say in your past life, you had been masculine or you had been feminine, and you were like, you know what? I want to come back to Earth as a feminine because I want to be in my feminine energy. And so before you leave, to come to Earth, you get with what other people would call soulmates or your twin flames. Twin flames, that's a whole nother level. Let's just say soulmates.
Hmm.
Soulmates. So souls that or energies that are on the other side with you that you trust. Maybe you had lived a life with them before, maybe you're just really close and you hang out at the bar and whatever other side bar there is. And you guys are hanging out and you're like, you know what? I want to go back to Earth. I want to be a feminine, but I need to set up like we'll call it a blueprint. This I feel like Hitchhiker's Guide is going off in my head. But we're gonna call this a blueprint. You want to set up a blueprint, and during your blueprint, you're like, okay, I want to go to Earth and I need to learn. Because the number one thing we do from the time we're born to the day we die is learn. You are nonstop learning, and that is universal because it's the one thing other than math, in my opinion, that everyone has. You learn to breathe, you learn to walk. Well, if you have your legs, you learn to talk, you learn to communicate. We'll say it that way. Um, but you learn from the time you're born to the time you die. You even learn to die. So you learn your entire life. So you're like, okay, I want to go and learn more about a specific thing. And having that experience on earth is going to help teach me that lesson much faster and easier than where I'm at on this side because I want to experience that. And you're like, okay, so I want to learn about great love and I want to learn about great loss. And your soulmate buddies are like, all right, cool, we got you, girl. And then you come to earth. Okay. They're now your guides. They are separate from you, from your original thought. That's what I'm saying.
And this is based off of, is this based more on beliefs then? Do you think that's more based off of beliefs?
What, that the guides are there?
Yeah.
I think that you have to believe it in order for anything to be true. You have to believe in it. But I think also that if you're a non believer or you're somebody who's skeptical or pessimistic, or maybe you've just never witnessed anything in your life that tells you that this stuff is real, then my advice to someone in that situation is open your eyes and look because you're missing it.
I feel like in some sense, and I'm gonna be the skeptical person here, because for me, the only time I've ever experienced anything in terms of like following my guides is getting a job. One of those times was I was so exhausted because it's so hard for me to get a job as of recent, and pushing myself to my absolute limit by just setting so many applications out there I couldn't even keep count. Now, recently, I said, okay, you know what? I'll do this again. Being probably my last one for the day. And I got a reply back. And I said in my head originally was, please, I don't expect anything out of this, but I hope that it happens.
What did you hear in your head?
In my head, it was, we'll see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. And it came out okay. Now, for me, belief wise, I'll be out loud. I'm agnostic. I don't know what's up there or what's down below or what's ever in a different plane of existence. I know there might be something else out there that I don't know about. And for me, keeping an open mind like that helps me understand a lot more, not only cultures, but also understanding why people believe in those things. So, for example, this is something I think is funny. Me and a couple of people back in college were talking about religions, and we were talking about how some people think that some religions were based off of people on psychedelics. Which, to be fair, some of the things that you see in some religious like things can be a little wild. Like, if you do your own research, you'll understand what I mean. But do your research, look at reputable sources. From what I've learned, is that one thing is that we were talking about Christianity and how angels are not the angels that we publicly see normally. That's like, the normal with wings and stuff like that. They're freaky in some of the
Scripture.
some of the scriptures. Like one of them has like a million eyes with like revolving rings with wings on them and saying, "Do not be afraid." Like, yeah, I'm gonna be afraid when a giant ring like thing comes out of the sky with millions of eyes looking at me.
It's fantastic.
It's you know, if you look it up, if you look up biblically accurate angels, you can see why they say be not afraid. And it's also another thing where when you think about it, it makes sense that if something like that is created, it possibly could have been based off of a psychedelic that someone had and saw something that was random. But we are so creative too, so it could have been just someone who's creative enough to make.
Or or it could be from another world.
That is also true, and that's the thing though, is that we don't know. That's why I keep an open mind, and that's why I'm agnostic, is because I don't know what's up there. Now, in terms of guides and beliefs and stuff like that, for me, I don't think I really have a guide all too much. And the reason why I say this is because everything that I have done have been based off of my own thoughts. I don't think I've had okay, maybe intrusive thoughts.
You
For
do
me, I feel like intrusive thoughts kind of count towards that, but
you do what you do based on your free will. Just because my guides talk to me, just because my guides are like, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't do that," or just because my intuition or my gut says, maybe you shouldn't do that. And that's again separate from your guides. Just because that happens doesn't mean that it's just them controlling me. You have free will to choose. So in your life, when you choose to go down one road versus another, it doesn't mean and things just start falling apart and not doing great. It doesn't mean that you took the wrong road. It just meant that that road was something you were meant to learn. So it's still you're still free will. You're choosing which path you take, but based on the choices that you make, the lessons that you're going to learn are lessons that you actually asked for. And your guides are there to help you get back on your path once you've completed that lesson.
so let me ask you this then. Because you said something about blueprints, and I think we talked about this before, but now I'm a little more
Years ago, we
curious.
talked
Yes, we
about
talked
blueprints.
with blueprints, right? In some sense, can someone actually move away from the blueprint, or is the blueprint a set in stone? It's kind of like
Picture, um, picture a tree, right? We'll go with I don't know why I'm doing this in my head, but picture an electronic tree pathways. Okay.
wires and all that.
Not just that, but like, yeah, where information goes. So picture uh,
It's okay.
electronic tree. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, memory and all that. So you have all these different pathways that go to different things and it's never ending. So you picture a tree and each section, each road branches out and each branch has a branch, has a branch, has a branch, has a branch. There's a leaf, there's a branch, there's a rose, there's a branch. And you have all these different paths that you can choose. Your blueprint is not as simple as, hey, point A, point B, point C, point D. No, it's point A and then 8 on 1 million, and then point B and B on 4 million. And each section branches off and can reconnect. So if you wanted to learn specific things or there are certain lessons that you are wanting to in this life learn because maybe in your past life you didn't learn them, you're going to repeat those patterns over and over and over until you get the lesson. And then
So
once you get the lesson, then you branch off to another path.
so let me ask you this then. Do you think that
Oh,
it's kind of like
you too.
do you, do you think do you think that the blueprint in I would say in your own definition is a foundational start before you start Do you think it's like
But it's your
it's
free will, it's your choice. You created that blueprint. Your guides just help you stay on those paths that you chose for yourself out of your own free will.
joking is I'm going to joke here.
Joke
Do you
away.
think that your guys would go crazy because you're not going for the blueprint that you made like a million times, and now your blueprint is like out, like say for example, I made a blueprint. I want to be a famous actor, but instead now I'm a garbage man. That's my life goal is to
I'm
be a garbage man.
I'm pretty sure you don't just go, I want to be famous. Like that's not the lesson. The lesson is getting to it, getting to that area.
Like what it
That is,
requires and stuff like that.
and you're making me laugh right now because earlier, um, I don't know, it was yesterday or the day before. I talked to myself out loud, and I also talk to my guides out loud, and we have the funniest conversations. But I'm laughing because I had an aha moment. So I was in a tower moment, which I think we talked a little bit about
Yeah, a little
tower
bit.
moments. So I was in a tower moment where I was feeling stressed and things were kind of falling apart. And then I had an aha moment of why that was happening. I was like, okay, so this. And then I had to go through previous situations in my life where the outcome was not the best. And so I look at these previous incidents in my life where the outcome wasn't the best and what I did that caused that to happen. And I was like, son of a, oh man, I get it now. This, and this. And the second I had that, I just felt like release. It was like, thank you. I'm so glad you got that, Liza, because we were losing our minds over here. And I'm like, no, I get it. I get it now. That's why that keeps happening. And now that I realize that and I've changed my perspective on it, I'm like, that's never going to happen again. That part of me that was willingly doing this specific thing is like, that's dumb. Why would you do that? And now I get it now. My perspective has changed. I know I'm being vague and I apologize to to you and everyone else.
I think it's difficult to kind of get not a grasp. Let me rephrase that. It's difficult to get a great definition for this because it's so big and
And
very
personal. It's
expansive,
personal
and it's
to
personal
each
too.
person. So if you for I'm just gonna throw a random thing that not necessarily has to do with me, but if for some reason you are getting into a specific job. You're getting into a specific job, and every time you work at this job, something happens during that job where you end up getting fired. So then you have to go to the next job, and you're going, and throughout your life, you're getting fired, you're getting fired, you're getting fired. And then you turn around and you go, oh my gosh, every time I got fired, this happened. When I got fired, I went through the pattern of feeling bad for myself, feeling sad, and feeling like this is never going to work. And why can't I do that? And then I realized at the end that every single job is like, that's why that's happened because I've been negative about it. Instead of finding my footing and going, you know what? I'm going to do this different. This is a different situation. This is a different job. I need to move forward in this direction. I kept repeating that same job. So I'm going to keep repeating that until I finally get that aha moment and go, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. I get it now. And the second I had that moment, and I'm talking about me personally, but it's not job related. The second you have that moment is when you go, okay, I get it. So from now on, when I start this job, I need to do A, B, and C and avoid D like the plague. And you have that feeling of that's fantastic. That's good. And also, if D comes along, that sounded inappropriate. If,
If that option came along,
thank you. If that, did I freeze?
I just love the fact that you're like that was inappropriate.
and then just
Uh
completely froze. My brain went off in 8 different directions.
so I think I got the gist of what you're trying to say.
Right. You're gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna do it different. You're gonna change something about it. And then you're not gonna repeat that pattern again because even if that pattern pops up in front of your face, you're like, yeah, have good luck with that. I'm not gonna do that at this job. And then you're good to go.
So there's also something I've
I
noticed
don't know if
too.
that was really confusing or super ranty.
I think you went on a little rant there, but that's okay because honestly, opening up about it is very important for me. Don't apologize for that. That's a good thing. I like to learn about this stuff.
Okay.
So, in my mind, and I want to relate back to what we were originally talking about, energy,
Right.
because we kind of went off topic there for a little bit, but I actually think it coincides with what we're talking about. When we're talking about like reincarnation and following your I would say what was it, angels or like
Guides.
guides. Thank
This
you.
podcast has just gone in 80 different directions. I love it.
Yes, because we're fried. Okay, we're fried from the sun. Give us a little break. Um, for me, it made me realize that maybe energy, I would say metaphysical energy, cannot be replaced, but instead is transferred. Like you said with reincarnation, in that sense, where right,
No.
no, I think for me, if you think about it, one person is gone, another one is born, right? Because that's how humans work and that's how animals work. We all have
With the energy,
just like
the energy can still be present though.
right, but I'm saying with that energy, the energy died within that being, but is transferred to a different being
Oh,
now
I
when
see
it's
where you're
when
going
it's
with that.
born, right? And for me, that kind of makes sense because with the universe being so expansive and always outputting energy for a very long time, it's outputted so much energy. It literally, in my mind, it literally made its universe. Like I believe in the Big Bang Theory, where there's a singular like little point, and it exploded into energy and gave us all life, and that energy is still going.
Okay. Go back to what you were explaining with the where the energy came from.
The I think the energy, what with the Big Bang? Or are you talking about like?
No, no, no.
Oh, okay.
We are not big Bane brain right now.
Oh, got it. You don't want to talk about the Big Bang Theory and stuff.
I
Got it.
love you to death.
Gotcha.
Please no.
Okay. So in my mind, I think energy is transferred from one being to another, and it could be transferred in different ways, but I think beings have their own energy no matter what until they die. And then when they're gone, that energy is transferred maybe into the air or maybe into other people and stuff like that. And for me, that makes the most sense because energy is kind of hard to lose.
I'm trying to wrap my head around your thought process. I think that you are
It's
on the
difficult.
I no, it's okay. I think that you're on the right path in your mode of thinking. I think that you're in the right direction. I just think that there's little nuances and details that are
I am being vague about
different.
it. I am being vague about it. The only reason why is because I haven't thought too deeply about it, but
Right.
in my head, it makes the most sense that energy is not lost, but is transferred. Now it can be slowed down, it can be sped up, it can vary in size, but I think it will stay there no matter even when Earth is gone. That energy will still be.
But in you saying that, you realize you're saying that energy can be present separate from your person,
Yes.
which means that the existence of a guide outside of yourself that you can talk to is possible.
Yeah, I'm saying it's possible. I'm not so my theory is that with guides
Mhm.
and spirits, it makes sense that they would have energy still, and that hasn't transferred anywhere into unless they. I think maybe some people like to stay as spirits and not transfer energy into somewhere else because they don't want to dissipate into whatever.
Now you're getting into paranormal, and I think that's going to be a different spirit that you're talking about. But you're correct in that a portion of it, but it's also separate. So when it comes to ghosts, there's a lot of different reasons that somebody could continue to their energy could continue to be in that area or near that area or around people. And some of it could be choice. They don't want to go. They're not ready to go. Some of it could be they have no idea what's happened. And I've actually done medium readings for people who don't know what's going on or where they're at. And then there are some energies that have just been around for so long, it's not necessarily just your normal, friendly Casper the ghost. And
That's a whole separate topic
that
in
is
and of
a very,
itself.
yeah, that's a delicate topic that we should definitely talk about, but not
Not
right now.
yeah. So I'm way too tired,
Yeah.
honestly. But I think in 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 thinking about it right now,
Uh,
guides having energy makes sense.
okay.
Same thing with spirits having energy and people have energy and animals. Everything has energy in some form of manner. But I also think that for me,
Sorry.
you're good.
Duncan just said thanks, bud.
I is that one of your guys' names? Yeah. Okay. So in my idea and my ideals is that my guides don't talk to me because they let me figure things out on my own.
I'm going to
But
rephrase that for you. You don't know if your guides are talking to you because you don't hear them because you, sir, have not listened.
define listen, because do you mean to say, like, if I look, say for example, if I ask a guide,
Mhm.
hey, by chance, well, I were it win $1 million, and I look up to
It doesn't work like that. Why do people always think it works that way? I wish it worked that way. If I knew ahead of
well, it
time
worked with the
what
tarot
the
card on for
lotto
me.
numbers were going to
Well,
be,
it worked with the tarot cards for me when you did the tarot card, so technically,
that's divination and you can get glimpses, but future's not set in stone because we have free will. So I could do the cards and say, "Hey, what is coming up for me?" And for example, one of the things that I've been doing the tarot cards on my TikTok. So when I started the tarot cards, I had a specific question about a specific situation. And I was asking what was going on, and the temperance card came up. And then I got the Ace of Cups, and I'm like, "Holy cow, this is awesome." And then it just kept kind of going. And then by the seventh, eighth, and ninth card, all came out at the same time. And then I realized that I was doing a reading. I was doing a Celtic or Celtic, depending on who you talk to, cross reading, which is a specific type of full tarot coverage. And each card represented a specific placement. So my first card was temperance. And that is in that position on that Celtic cross, in that position, that represents me as a person. So it talks about patient adaptability and all these awesome things. The energy surrounding the question that I asked, or the energy surrounding me with the question, was the Ace of Cups, and that had to do with um, romance, new love, psychic, and enlightenment, and just being open to a lot of different things. And then I realized all these different cards had different placements, and each placement has to do with a specific answer to the question that I asked. And I didn't realize that I was getting them. I just thought I was doing my cards and checking, like, what is coming up for me today, or how's this situation going? And one would pop up. And I'm like, okay. And then I would take that and then I would post it because I didn't want to go in order. I thought that would be boring. And I would post the information about what that card meant. And then I sat back and looked at it when 7, 8, and 9 came out and realized this is a reading. This is actually a reading on me. And then I did that last one, and I told you heard me when I pulled that card.
I did.
And I'm not going to say what it is because it is a TikTok video, so it's a surprise. But when I pulled that, I was just screaming in excitement because
Yeah, I thought
I
you were
was
dying across the house, by the way. She screamed so loud. I
I
literally had to
was
throw my
terrified
I
about what
threw
the outcome card was
I
gonna
threw
be.
I threw my headset off, ran to you, and you're like, "Are you
I
okay?"
thought the outcome card I didn't think I was hopeful and I was positive and optimistic, and I'm like, "I know that this is the actual outcome of it. This will be the outcome. This will be it." And then because I feel that. But there was a small part of me that was terrified that was gonna get a card that was like, "Nope." And I didn't. I got something completely different.
It's just the fact, like, okay, here's a little something off topic. There's moments where I think my mom talks to me, and there's moments where she is, but I didn't hear a word she said because she's across the house. She's like, so imagine a box, a square, 5 by 5, right? She is on the opposite corner of where I'm at
Are you
with a bunch of walls in
are you just
between.
trying to give a description of how loud I screamed?
Yes.
Okay.
That and also like how you try to talk to me even though I'm not there. So I'm in my room with like 5 different walls between me and my mother. She says, "Oh my god." And is super
I
excited.
don't think I said it like that.
No. Well, I kind of mimicked exactly how you said it.
Oh my god, I just snorted.
But the idea was that she screamed so loud, I thought she was screaming for death, and I ran across and realized she was smiling and laughing.
And then I think I started crying.
And then you started crying in a happy tear way. But the thing about it is that I thought you were dying. So sometimes, and the other thing too is that there's some moments where I'm in my office and I'm doing video editing and graphic design, and I hear my mom talk, and I think it's directed towards me,
I'm not talking.
and she's not talking to me. She's talking to her spirits, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then there's other moments where she does talk to me, so I have to let her know, hey, if you're talking to me, be at my door and not like in front of the coffee stand asking for my name.
Please tell me I'm not alone. Be- Wonderful people listening. Please tell me I'm not alone where your sarcasm is so deeply rooted that if you were to do something in your house, like maybe get a cup of coffee, and you were to say something out loud that could be taken
In any way.
in any way, that your smart, sarcastic self just have a response that made you giggle out loud because you're funny to yourself. Please tell me I'm not alone. I'm not the only person that laughs at her own jokes.
I feel like if there's one thing I've noticed was that when I do something like that, I say to myself, damn, I wish someone was right next to me to say it out loud.
Right? What is that?
I think
I'm
that
like disappointed. Like that was funny and nobody's ever gonna hear that. It was hilarious.
I mean, I hear it when you start screaming and hollering on your TikTok videos.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Uh-huh. Anyways, what time are we at? We're 6:20. We're over our limit here. I think for us, I think we got a good idea of the idea of energy, the idea of
Guides.
guides, and the idea of reincarnation and how energy is transferred
A little
a
bit.
little bit. That was kind of like more of a theory crafting at the end because for
Ye-
me, yeah, I just personally think that like theory crafting with stuff like this is kind of fun because it gives an idea of like this not the psychology, more the the understanding and getting an idea of what it is about paranormal slash psychic abilities have
And
to an extent.
and I just want to say to those listening that your ideas on something, like say if you have a completely random theory about something, don't push that away. That doesn't necessarily, you're not necessarily wrong. Don't immediately go to, oh, that doesn't make sense. Think about it a little bit. Mull it over. You could be right and not even know it. Theories come from creativeness and imagination and eventually can build to belief once you start kind of looking things up and understanding more, maybe doing some research and reading on it. But there are sometimes we'll say or feel something and be like, that's got to be what that is. Don't question that. The chances that that is exactly what you're feeling or that's what's happening, there it's part of your intuition.
I think it's the same thing. And I remember a great man once said, this is Stan Lee, by the way, um, don't let anyone else think that your ideas are stupid.
Exactly.
People thought that Spider-Man would not survive the golden age of comics, yet here he is with multi-million dollar movies, so many comic books I could barely keep up with, except for a couple which made me really mad, which I'll discuss maybe another day. But the idea is that ideas come out of the blue. Even if you think it is stupid, do think about it. Like my mom said, think about it, understand why you thought about it, and understand what deeply how deeply rooted that is to you as an idea.
Yeah, it's the why questions. Why did I say that? Where did that come from? Why?
It's
And
similar.
you ask yourself why so many different times. You might end up with a completely different question at the end of your whys.
Like
But the
how we
what
have our conversations kind
right.
of
But
different.
exactly like those conversations. But at the end of that, when you get to that point and the question completely changes, then you realize you actually have the answer to your question, or you knew the answer the whole time.
You're
But you had to go through the motions of asking why.
Yeah, it's very similar to being a scientist. Like, if this happened, then this should happen, and it's kind of experimenting.
Theory.
It's theory crafting. That's why I like doing theory crafting. It's the same thing with like me playing, being a nerd here, Elden Ring. I played that for 12 hours last night, and I stayed up till like 7 o'clock in the morning.
He was up. I wake up at 2:30 and he was up at 2:30 and I'm like, okay, not, no big deal. He'll go to bed soon. I leave the house at like a quarter after 4 and I realized he's still awake. And I'm like, dude, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm just really hooked into this game. And I'm like, all right, have a great day. And then I left knowing full well that within an hour he was going to be crashed out.
And I did. It was probably the best sleep like I've ever had, because when you get excited for something and you do it and you finally get it out of your system, it feels good. And for me, the thing I was doing was theory crafting with different weapons, different character builds, and stuff like that in Elden Ring, which is an RPG game. And the one thing I noticed was that I didn't really upgrade my weapons all too much, even though I should have. I thought building my character would do more damage. No, the weapons are the damage. You're just a really weak person in that game.
I think I'm gonna end my end with theory is one of those things that it's like life, you get what you put into it. You shouldn't limit yourself. When you limit yourself, you set the limits on what is possible and what isn't possible. And theory is one of those ones that it's limitless. So if whatever you're doing in your life, you're limiting yourself. Stop limiting yourself. You have to look at everything above and beyond that and know that those things are possible. Possibilities are endless.
And on that note, one more thing for me is that even though you can break your limits, sometimes there will be moments where things can be overwhelming or things can be a little difficult. You can push through those limits 100%. And one more thing, there will be moments where you need to do take those breaks, where you do need to recharge. You won't be able to break your limit if you're at 25% of what you are.
Hermit mode,
If you are in hermit mode,
fantastic place to be.
which I love, this is why I love winter, because I get cozied up in my comforter and just chill out. And then I also have my girlfriend to warm me up.
Okay.
Actually, no,
Moving on.
that's not what I meant. Anyways, I think I think that is it for us, everyone. We hope that you enjoyed this podcast. It's a little bit different from what we were originally intending to do,
It's
but
a heck of a lot longer.
we were hoping to only hit an hour, but it's like an hour and 30
I
minutes right
think you
now.
said 30 minutes. I,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
told you it was going to go longer. It's just how we are.
yeah. Yeah,
Chatty Cathy's.
very much so. But that'll be it for us. We hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. If you did, you can press that like button. Also, subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see more and be updated, and press that notification button, as well as share the podcast. It's audio. You can let people know it's just audio. There's no faces. You can just listen to it in the background.
You can pause it and come back to it later. We're not going anywhere.
Yep, and we're also thinking about trying to upload this podcast onto different platforms, not just YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music. There's so many things out there.
So
Why is there
feed,
so many like
there's yeah, don't get me started on how many phones are out there. So feedback, absolutely love feedbacks. Leave it in the comment section. If you know me personally, feel free to send me a message. But yes, definitely give us feedback on the length of our rants. I'm sure is probably going to come up.
well, I think it's interesting to do the rants, but at the same time, it's about how we focus our rants into little segments. So maybe we should write down stuff like topics that we should talk so we have an
Yeah,
idea of what we want to talk about.
yeah,
But for the most part, yes, feedback is much appreciated. Also, let us know what you guys want us to talk about. If you guys have any questions, if you guys have any comments, if you guys have any theories, even, or even want to talk about just random stuff, let us know in the
yeah.
comments down below.
I would love to hear thoughts on what people feel about guides and energy and the blueprints
Even
and everything.
yeah, like everything. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that is it. We hope you have a great rest of your day and or week or whatever day you're listening this on. And we will check you guys all later.
Bye.